Hey everyone, welcome to Marketing Monday with the Watertown SBDC on this Martin Luther King Day. I am Nicole, and we're joined by a special guest today, but we're not going to get into that right this second. Before we get started, Liz from the Watertown SBDC is going to tell us a little bit about what's going on there and some thoughts before we start the broadcast.
Thanks, Nicole. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us on this snowy-ish, not exactly snowmageddon, but, maybe we'll be there by tomorrow. We just want to welcome you and let you know that I know we're not working today. We're closed, actually, but we're here broadcasting Marketing Monday because that's what we do. And I want to just start off with a quick inspirational quote. You haven't had enough today, I know, but there's this really cool website called Black Girl Ventures, blackgirlventures.org, and they have some great resources for women of color or people of color or anyone who wants to start a creative business or start a business creatively. And they have some great Martin Luther King quotes about business, believe it or not. So let me just leave you with this. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? And if you want help figuring out how your business can help others, call the SBDC. We're here for you. And now I'm really excited to bring you today's programming. So take it away, Nicole and John.
All right. Well, we have a special guest today, John Hunt, who is a marketing strategist and friend of the SBDC. John, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is fun.
And we're going to put a disclaimer. John works for a pretty large company. And so this disclaimer is here to say that John is representing himself today and not the views of this company on any particular subject matter. So, but before we get started, John, can you give people a really brief background of sort of your background and expertise as we talk about the trends we see happening in 2022?
Sure. I have been in professional communication going on over 30 years. I graduated from Canisius College with a BA in communication. I'm a copywriter by trade. I've spent many years in local radio, and I have helped hundreds of companies with their marketing questions, concerns, strategies, and campaigns. Won a few awards for it, which I'm pretty proud of. And again, I'm excited just to be here to talk to you about what might happen over the next year.
Right. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Nicole Willette. I own a marketing company called Breaking Even Communications. I've been in business for 14 years, mainly doing internet marketing stuff. I've built probably over 500 websites, not by myself, but on teams usually. I also, before that, worked at a newspaper for a couple of years. So I do have a little bit of a sort of online/print background in addition to the internet stuff. So combined experience of me and John is a fair bit, not quite 50 years, but pretty darn close. But before we get started with what we see coming up in 2022, I thought, when John and I were talking about planning this, we talked about sort of, John had some really good kind of tenets that we can keep in mind, which I think are timeless and will help us kind of approach everything. So what I'm going to do is put them on the screen. John, I'm going to let you mostly explain them. And if I guess, have something to add, I'll say something, but I have a feeling probably not. So
Sure.
The first one, all media works if used properly.
Yeah, I had a mentor that kept telling us that, and it always comes out to be true because it doesn't matter what the medium is. I mean, it'll work if you use it properly. And one of the best ways to use it properly is to understand the audience that's consuming that medium, because that's what gives it its power. I mean, I've had people say things like, well, print is dead. Well, it's not dead. It's used and it's consumed. And I've seen a number of businesses that cater to senior audiences where those retirees and seniors still have their daily habit of looking at the newspaper. So those print ads tend to work well because that audience is consuming that medium, if that makes sense.
It absolutely does. And, kind of related to that, this idea that research-based recommendations from third-party research are best to go with.
Yeah.
Obviously, like if I have a vested interest in maybe selling you, I guess, online advertising or something like that, but it is nice to get something that you're learning about confirmed by an outside source.
it's an opportunity to trust but verify the direction of the campaign. I mean,
Yeah.
if we're looking for left-handed dentists without tonsils, we want some research to know, right? I mean, one of the trends in 2022 is that we're looking at niche markets, right,
Mhm.
and niche consumers. So, if we go all the way to left field and say left-handed dentists without tonsils, we want to know exactly where that sweet spot is, where they're congregating, what they're doing, what kind of lifestyle that they're living, so that we can help position that client so that the client is educating the consumer about what benefit they bring before that consumer needs it.
Right. And I think that really leads into this other tenet that, like I said, we were kind of establishing what these were before the broadcast. And, it is really important that you understand your base audience before you do anything new and shiny. Because
Right.
yeah, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And, and I thought that this was a good kind of addition to that you had, which is like doing that, understanding your audience really saves you a lot of time and money because let's face it, most small businesses do not have extra money to waste on marketing that doesn't work.
Well, businesses budget for a reason so that they can plan. And no matter how successful that business is, they have a cap on their spending. And it has to be allocated properly and responsibly. And, reps like you and I, have to be accountable for, delivering what we promise we're going to deliver.
Right. And a lot of kind of what's come on the market in the last few years, like social media and things like that, are free. But, and I really thought it was great that you brought up that, right, marketing takes time for small businesses and that time is worth something.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're not paying someone else to do these things for you, if they're easy to use tools, you still need time to use them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
And
mean,
yeah.
it's very it's very dangerous to expect an immediate result from any kind of marketing. A proper expectation has to be set. And even with these new shiny tools that are coming out and with instant reports through digital marketing or pacing reports, we still have to be able to ensure that the money's being allocated properly and that it's being followed through on.
Yeah, and just because something is online, or something is digital in some way, doesn't mean we can skip the line in relationship building, right? Like, like you said, we have to go from like awareness to, you have to kind of make that progression and leave time for that progression to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because building a relationship online or anywhere through advertising marketing relationships take time, no matter
Right.
whether they're marketing ones or not.
Right. And that consumer needs to have that trust built by the business before they give them an opportunity to do business.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So, I thought these were really good tenants. If you want to go back and kind of note them and think about them for yourself, I think that's a really good way to approach your marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And then John and I sat down and we came up with some trends that we kind of saw in the marketing and sort of, online business and local business spaces. And this first one, and by the way, I'm going to give John credit for, he really brought this up, this idea that people are definitely more tolerant and expecting of accountability directly. So John, do you want to talk a little bit more about like kind of what we meant by this as this came up while we were talking to play in this
Sure. I
broadcast?
mean, there's a big culture shift in accountability of the consumer, accountability of the business, accountability of the representative. And the marketing trend in 2022 is just to be more transparent about what can be delivered, what can be offered. And I think people are more tolerant of that accountability and are more willing to take a proactive stance on accountability.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't used to just be able to issue a press release from your PR firm when you did something naughty and just kind of fly under the radar, but
Right.
people are not tolerating that anymore. They want to hear from the business owner, they want to hear that they're sorry, they want to hear how things are going to change. when something really bad happens.
And then they want, I'm sorry to interrupt, but then they want the proof that it changed.
Yes, they do. So, it's you now don't need these like fancy, I guess, relationship management, firms to protect your reputation necessarily, but you just need to be ready to be accountable if you're in business in any sort, even if you're a tiny business, because people are expecting that. And it's more and more, we have all these tools now to be kind of more accountable. I mean, think about, geez, even like 10 or 15 years ago, if you said, oh yeah, I can just say something and it's going to be broadcast out automatically to 1,000 people. I mean, we didn't used to have these tools. We have them now, but what that means is we have more responsibility to the people who are following our company and supporting our company.
Correct. And the response, get over yourself, doesn't fly anymore.
Yep.
You have to back up your words with character, and character comes out in your marketing, especially with like content and approach and wording.
And that's not to say you have to bend to the whim of everybody who like wants you to change something. But if you're not going to do something that people are asking you about, you just have to have like a good reason for it, and be willing to explain that, so maybe your clothing boutique is under fire because you only carry up to, 3XL in your sizing. And your customers have said, you should have more inclusive sizing. Well, maybe you need to be transparent about the fact that you are trying to source from more designers, but like, you're having a hard time kind of finding whatever the problem is, like really laying out that you're like trying to fix it, or the reason that you're not fixing it. We did a research and we found that, 95% of our customers are in the size range that we're currently serving. And so we want to serve those people well. There might be a reason not to. You just have to be
but it's
transparent
also
about
an
that.
opportunity to see if in that hypothetical example that you just gave, Nicole, right? Yeah. Okay, that's an excellent opportunity for a business to look at diversifying their product line, increasing the offerings available, and grow a new revenue stream. So if in your example, if someone says, well, you only carry up to 3X, right? That's a great opportunity to say, thank you for pointing that out. I'm curious, are there any designers that you know of where you've bought the size you need and you really like it? Because we'd be happy to look into that.
That's a great way to put it back, because if someone took the time to say something, it means that it usually means that they care about it. Most people do not have the time to like go around online and just being jerks to small businesses. If they're telling you something, it's probably because it's important to them. So it's worth considering anyway.
Well, it means they like the store. It means they like the people, and it doesn't sound like one of those Karen complaints.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to look at how can we grow that relationship with not just this consumer, but potentially their friends, the people they know, and others outside, 6 degrees away.
Yeah. So, as you're approaching 2022, are you ready to be accountable? And in what ways are you going to think about being accountable yourself?
Right. I mean, one of the trends that I'm seeing in 2022 is a lot more sincere inclusivity in how consumers are represented in commercials. A lot of different races, a lot of different lifestyles, they're all being represented better.
And I will say, like, when I went to go see the Wonder Woman movie and I left the theater, I remember thinking, is this how men feel when they go see an action movie? Like, yes, it was so empowering to see somebody who looked like me on the screen. So kind of think about how your business is gonna approach these kind of things, because I think it's really important.
Well, I mean, Marvel has done a fantastic job with inclusivity in its projects, and there's more coming. And I mean, to be transparent, I sell the ads at the movie theaters. So, I get to talk about Spider-Man all day and I get paid for it. So, okay, but we have a very young audience, and they're very hard to reach. And those 18 to 34-year-olds can see through insincere inclusivity.
Mm-hmm.
They're not stupid, you know.
Yep.
And I mean, my generation, and again, this goes back to my disclaimer, this is my opinion. My generation, you know, we could do a product advertisement all day long and say that looks interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're trying to do inclusivity in 2022, it has to be sincere and it has to be appropriate. It can't be a checkbox. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Nope, for sure. So yeah, so kind of think through that for your business if you're watching this broadcast and that sounds exciting, or that sounds interesting to you, because it's definitely something that's going to continue on whether you take advice from John and I or not, I think. Another trend that we had talked about, John, when we were planning this broadcast, is this idea that, like, I know there's a certain group of people that are waiting for things to get back to normal. And so they keep punting, large events or workshops or things like that, thinking, oh, when things go back to normal, we'll go back to doing them in person. But I think both you and I agree that virtual events, or at least hybrid events, are here to stay. And you have to finally learn to use this technology if you're going to continue kind of serving your customers well.
Yeah. And, personally, as a salesperson, the virtual connections have actually made my business a little more efficient because I cover a large territory across the eastern side of New York State. So with the virtual, I can have an appointment in Albany, Watertown, Binghamton, and Syracuse all in the same day. And the folks that aren't embracing the technology that's available, like you said, are really sabotaging themselves. I mean, even medicine and telehealth have given a lot of strides, and to be able to have a Zoom call when we can't be together does help with a bit of that personal connection. And if you need to learn how to answer a phone for your job, if you need to learn how to work a computer for your job, or get a better understanding of software that's available, then why wouldn't you?
Right. And you can serve a bigger group of people. Like, I'm thinking about people, even for me, something that I found helpful is, like, in Zoom, you can turn on the closed captions. If we were meeting in real life and I had a hearing problem, we're both wearing masks and that's not helping either. But if we're meeting over Zoom, I can turn on the closed captions and see them. So, I think part of this whole virtual thing means that things are going to be more accessible to more people. So, I mean, why as a business owner wouldn't you want that? A larger potential customer base.
And if you're doing the Zoom or the Ring Central or Microsoft Teams or what have you,
oh yeah,
it's a great opportunity to brand your logo too. Make sure you're wearing something with your logo on it. I mean, I try often in those calls to have our logo. So there you go. Have the logo somewhere, somehow, just to be able to reinforce who we are and what we do.
Yep. And, the other thing that you and I had talked about, John, we were talking, is this idea that, we see this big change with the Great Resignation. We see businesses offering kind of higher wages and other ways to try to keep people. And as local businesses, especially ones who maybe have been more established or have been in business longer, you might feel like a need or a want to change to attract talent, to retain your talent, to attract new customers. But you might not be sure, like, how you need to change. And so I think in our conversation we had before, sort of the summary we had was this idea of, like, collaboration and flexibility being the key to being able to figure out how you need to change. Do you want to talk a little bit more about, like, our conversation there? Because I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, sure. I mean, first of all, don't change just for change's sake.
Yeah.
It's a matter of having difficult conversations with customers and employees to really understand what needs to happen for both of them to feel valued, respected, and wanted. And when those changes are being made, make sure that we're looking at exactly what the potential impact of that change would be, whether it would eliminate a problem or create a victory, and who would benefit from that change. Does that make sense? I
Yeah.
lost you.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it's fine. My dog was a little chatty. Yeah, no, I definitely see, I totally follow you there. And, I think sometimes we as business owners, myself included, by the way, um, I'm the kind of person who makes the decision and just wants to be like, yep, made that decision and just keep going, right? But occasionally we have to revisit our decisions because at one point they served us and maybe they're not serving us anymore. So in talking with your, like, let's say you wanted to, you see that you've been having some turnover with employees and having a conversation with them, in your mind you might think like, I can't afford to give everyone a $2,000 a month raise or whatever. But in talking with them, you might just find that maybe they want a little more flexibility in their schedule. Maybe, yeah, I mean, we all want more money, but there might be some things that make them happy that would be relatively easy for you to do. And I don't know about you, but as a business owner, like, I don't get why I wouldn't pick a way to make my staff happy if I could do it.
Well, I think the day of that Scrooge taskmaster is I mean, you'll work for me and you're gonna like it,
Yeah.
and we're like, you see those pictures in the 60s of all the bookkeepers in the room with adding machines, and yeah, I mean, that's gone. I mean, there are the successful businesses and business owners have a camaraderie among them and a culture among them that where they all work well together. I mean, one of my mentors, it kind of reminds me of Disney a bit. One of my mentors used to say, "Hey, John, you know why everybody's so nice at Disney?" I'm like, I don't know. Why is everybody nice at Disney? And he goes, because they only hire nice people.
I love that.
Yeah, I know.
I love that.
I mean, like recruitment's a huge issue right now for a lot of businesses, and we've done several recruitment campaigns, and the ones that are working well aren't the ones where we're talking about pay. They're the ones where we're talking about culture.
Mm-hmm.
And let's take healthcare workers right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So healthcare workers are having their own challenges. They're overwhelmed. They're tired. I'm seeing places that are offering bonuses. Bonuses don't change. You're tired and drained.
Yeah.
But if you're positioning a place as how they care for that person, how they ensure that they have a good work-life balance, it tends to work out pretty well. Is that you know?
Yeah. And like I said, until, and I have clients try to do this too. If we talk about a marketing campaign or something that like didn't work, they'll like start like, well, it's because this, it's because of that. And it's like, well, until we actually like talk to people, we don't really know. We can speculate, but
Right.
but yeah, in sort of, being flexible and collaborative. And like you said, like, people are they're saying we're tired. You're offering them a solution to that instead of saying, well, what about this? What about that? No, they don't care about that. Or they care less about that, I should say. Like, you're not listening to them if you just offer them something that is completely outside of what they want.
Right. You mentioned one of my pet peeves, I don't know if this works, right? When you're doing your marketing and your advertising and a business knows their key performance indicators or KPIs, if you will, if they know how their workflow is coming in or how the consumers are coming in, and they can measure according to the appropriate key performance indicators, then it's a better litmus test on where the marketing is working. Because I have yet to have a client turn to me and go, man, I saw your ad on the big screen, and we do get leads from that actually, but because we have our 800 number up on the movie screen, your ad can go here. And I love that we do that because we're using our own medium to promote ourselves. You know, it's a real litmus test for us to know that there are people in that audience that respond to the big screen, right? But I have yet to have someone go, I saw your website, I saw your Facebook page, I saw the 800 number on the big screen, and now I've decided that I need to buy me some damn movie ads. You know, it's not something that someone wakes up and goes, I can't wait to do this. And I can't wait to go buy me some healthcare today, you know.
And unless you're in marketing, like you're not necessarily tracking like how you've heard about something. So if I meet a business and I remember something, I say, you know, I started to follow you on Twitter 2 years ago because you talked about this. You know, I try to give them, because I know they're not getting that from anywhere else, because you know, I obviously manage a lot of websites, and there's in the contact form, sometimes it asks, how did you hear about us? And they always want me to put in word of mouth. Guess what everybody picks when they fill out that form? They just like word of mouth. And it's like, you know, where did that come from? Well, it could have come from a lot of things, but maybe that person just isn't remembering the whole series of advertisements or marketing pieces that they saw before they got to the point where they're on your website filling out your contact form.
Word of mouth through I had a coworker.
Word of mouth. Yeah, everything's
I
word
had
of
a
mouth.
coworker in radio, and I loved Danny. He passed away a couple of years ago, and we just had a great relationship, became friends outside, and you know, we would talk about word of mouth. And I'll never forget this because Danny would say word of mouth is one of the best, most honest ways to promote. You know, it's like the old commercial, they told two friends and they told two friends and so on, right? Well, Danny, whenever a client would say, well, you know, we only use word of mouth, Danny would go, yeah, what do you do to get the words moving or get the
Yeah,
it was word of mouth. We use word of mouth, and then Danny would go, yeah, what are you doing to get the mouths wording?
the mouth's wording, right?
You know, because you can't have a conversation through marketing without a conversation starter. So what's that tipping point that consumer is going to use to go to a business like auto, right? Auto dealer, right? I have a car that I like. I don't love it, but I like it, and it runs, and I got a good deal on it. And I'm going to drive that car until the bills and the repairs become higher than the regular monthly payment. So I'm going to drive it till I hate it, right? And most of us are going to drive a car that we own until we hate it. And then we're going to buy a new one that we love, and then it's going to become we like it, and then we're going to drive it till we hate it. So and no marketing is going to change my perception or a consumer's perception of whether or not I want a new car. It'll be that consumer's decision. So it's always trying to keep top of mind to that right audience long enough that the marketing is a profitable investment for the company as opposed to being an expense. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And, you know, this kind of segues. So, you know, before we're having this conversation, John and I obviously had a previous conversation to plan this out. And I had a few kind of predictions of my own I wanted to throw in here. And this whole, how do you get the mouth's wording takes us to, I think, a trend that I see of people's mouths starting to word, which is this idea of a short form video. This could be TikTok.
A well done short form video.
A well done short form video.
It's not putting yourself on TikTok and just, you know, freestyling. You know, it's having a very set list in your head or bullets to be able to do it. I mean, and it's as simple as writing it on a whiteboard that can't be seen.
Right.
You know, just so that those proper benchmarks are hit in the message that's coming out. But video is extremely important nowadays.
Right. And, you know, I don't know if people watching this have ever been to like a BNI meeting where everybody gets 60 seconds to talk about their business, but being able to say something in a short format is really powerful. because most people, like, yeah, some of you are going to watch this whole live stream if you're here now. Thanks for being here. But some people, you know, I'll watch a 60-second video about just about anything. You know, I follow a few opera singers on TikTok and stuff like that. Like, I mean, I'm not actively interested in pursuing opera singing, but I just find it interesting. And I think a lot of people will follow you in 60-second snippets. And if there's, you know, some education that you can do, or a problem you can solve, or a tip that you can give in 60 seconds, that gives people a good reason to word about you with their mouths,
Yeah,
then,
but
like,
but the
yeah, then
video
that's,
has to show the consumer benefit. It has to be about them.
oh yeah. No
It
one's,
can't it can't be about, we pride ourselves on our friendly service. You know
no.
what? I will tell you if your service is friendly as a consumer.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah. I want to hear, okay, 5 things it's snowing right now. Here are 5 things, Nicole's car dealership. Here are 5 things you need to do with your car right now so it runs better in the snow. Bloop,
exactly.
bloop, 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 bloop. Oh, wow, that Nicole's real nice. And I'm starting to hate my car.
Mhm. You bring a good point. So an auto service center could do a quick short form video. Here's
Mhm.
5 things you need to do. You need to check your wipers. You need to check your defrost. You need to make sure you have a snow brush in your car. Make sure you have enough wiper fluid, and make sure your gas tank is topped off. If you have
Yep.
concerns beyond this, or you have questions, please come in and see us, and we will help you.
Yep.
That's what you need to do.
Right. And
You know,
not only is that useful, there's a little small plug for yourself at the end, but nobody wants to watch like an infomercial and then share that, or like, I send TikToks to my friends, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, I saw this and thought of you, but I'm not going to send a friend a 60-second long, my name is Nicole and I own an auto dealership and here's why I am amazing. And then, no one's going to watch that. No one cares. But if there's some useful information, a fun story, like,
Mhm.
there's so much you can do with short form video. And it really, if you get used to talking about your business in these short snippets, I find you get kind of a lot more efficient, and you almost get to the heart of what your business is really about if you
Right,
practice doing that.
right. And one of the I teach a marketing unit for the SBDCs in Oswego, Onondaga County, of course, up there in Jefferson as well.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the examples I use is when you're positioned, you can't take a feature and turn that into your story. It has to be a benefit. So the example
Mm-hmm.
I use is like, Nicole, you have a heated seat in your car, do you?
I do.
Okay, I do too. Do you know the wattage?
No.
But is your butt warm?
Oh, the three
Difference
settings a little too
between
much.
the difference between feature and benefit.
Mm-hmm.
The feature is the wattage, the benefit's your butt's warm.
Yeah.
So talk about the benefit.
Yeah. Yeah, getting too much in the weed,
Yeah.
and yeah, and you know what, if you don't want to be on TikTok, fine. YouTube has short videos, YouTube shorts. You probably have noticed there's like a whole section now in the app that is just featuring shorts.
Mhm.
Instagram has reels. There's a whole section of Instagram that's just reels. If you've ever made a reel, you might say, oh wow, this thing got so much more views than my usual Instagram content. A lot of these social media apps are prioritizing the short form video, so why not dabble in it a little bit?
I
Um,
I write short pieces on LinkedIn,
yeah.
and put up my 2 cents for whatever, and a lot of times it's about my industry, and
Hmm.
sometimes it's just sharing a client and saying, if you're looking for this, call this person. But the most views I got was the holiday picture of my dogs. So
Yeah.
so now what? Use more dogs in my posts, you know,
Eh, once in a while, I think people just want to see that you're human, and want to see kind of what you're about.
which goes back to that trend of 2022 of being transparent and being
Hmm.
honest and accountable,
Yeah.
and making sure that you're being inclusive in that message.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you haven't tried short form video, give it a shot. It's not as hard as you think. And there are apps you could even put on your phone that will let you, like, put a text overlay or whatever, that aren't super difficult to use. So So do check that out.
And just because a business is doing a short form video doesn't mean they have to do it. They could do a short form video of one of their customers doing a testimonial.
It's true. Yeah. No, there's tons of great formats out there for short form.
Yeah.
And I think that we have some stuff coming up in this live stream. So if you're watching this, feel free to subscribe or like the page or whatever so you get notifications when these broadcasts happen. But we are going to do stuff about short form videos here coming up. And just as a quick thing before we transition to the next one, if you're watching this and you have comments or questions, you can post them. We'll be able to see them whether you're on YouTube or Facebook. If your Facebook profile is a little bit private, which I totally get it, what you can do is you can go to the link on your screen and enable comments on StreamYard. You don't have to change your profile settings or anything. This way, if you leave a comment, we'll be able to see it. Because there's just different levels of Facebook privacy. So please don't be shy with your comments. John and I are on for another 20-ish minutes here. So we'd love to hear some of what people are, I guess, thinking as they watch this broadcast. So now the next trend that we had talked about in our planning was this idea that small businesses are going to have their own almost like online shopping shows. Amazon was experimenting with these before Christmas, I noticed. And one of the most popular apps in China right now is basically a streaming app where people kind of honestly are kind of hosting their own QVC type shows. You've seen this kind of thing on your end too, John, right? Like this idea that people are going to be sort of video presenters of their own products and services online.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's a superstar. Andy Warhol said in the future, everybody will be famous for 15 minutes, right? So, and what you're mentioning right now, Nicole, it's Forbes put out an article about 2022 marketing trends, and number 3 is experiential e-commerce. Combined with the video and being able to have a presentation with a benefit, with an immediate link to that e-commerce, to be able to buy through a website or an app or what have you. It makes it easier for that consumer to do business with that company.
And I think a lot of times people don't know what kind of questions maybe they have about a product. So almost like listening to someone talk about it, you're like, oh, I never really thought about that, that particular issue or that particular kind of thing before. And I know that from an e-commerce standpoint, we did a broadcast about sort of e-commerce, I guess, leading up to Christmas. So if you're watching this and want to go back and watch past episodes, there's some good e-commerce ones from back in December. But what we see is that products that have video attached to them, not just photos, but video, have I think it's 5 times or something more purchases. Because think about even looking at a piece of clothing. If you just see someone kind of walk in a room, turn, and you can see the fabric moving, you can see how the print is kind of distributed,
right.
On the thing, you can see what it looks like on a person, how it moves.
Anytime there's an active medium with sound and video, the consumer's more engaged. And if they're watching it through the end, they have a true interest in that product or service.
Yes.
And this whole e-commerce shift that you're talking about, to me, it's a localized version of QVC. In the past, you have to get your product, you have to get it to QVC, you have to get it approved, you have to get it tested, you have to see if you're going to get a result on QVC. This way, you take that all out of it, and now you can take your own product, you can do your short video, and you can have your own little QVC. The challenge is making sure people are watching it and marketing it enough to that right audience to ensure that they're watching.
Well, and during the whole pandemic thing, which obviously we're still in right now, excuse the snowplow going by my house. Also, people aren't coming into stores anymore. So they're not having that sort of consumer experience anymore of walking into a store and seeing everything laid out. So as we've gotten used to online shopping, it feels very kind of transactional. I think this is a way for people to kind of have that little kind of personal touch or connection with a small business they're buying from, without having to physically go into a store.
Exactly.
So if you're willing to do it, I think it's worth giving it a shot. Obviously, all of these, on YouTube, you can stream. You just have to turn it on your profile. Facebook, Instagram, all that. You don't need streaming software like we use for this broadcast. I mean, this kind of just makes it a little fancy. We can do overlays and things like that. But you could just kind of stream and give it a shot and see how it works for you.
And it's a perfect pitch every time, because the video isn't live. It's already put together. So if you're a business and you're putting together one of these short videos or one of these testimonials from your customers, just because you created the video the first time and it's not exactly what you want, doesn't mean you have to publish it.
Right.
So the pitch is always perfect.
Yeah. You can totally try things out. And obviously, you can try live streaming and just delete it. If you don't like it, try again later. No big deal.
That's another thing. I've had clients where they've said they don't like the ad that was created, but it represented their business appropriately. So it didn't matter to me. Well, it does matter to me if they like it, but like it, at the end of the day, what matters is that the consumers embrace it.
Yeah.
And there was one company where I had written an ad, and it was a charming little story, and it was reflective of that business's client journey. Okay. The owner of the business hated it, but we kept running it because it was generating calls.
Yeah.
So, at some point you have to step back, and this is where that third-party research helps, because it takes that agenda out of it. It's not a matter of like or don't like. It's a matter of, does this represent or not?
Right. And I know video feels like a hurdle for a lot of people, because, none of us particularly like the way we look on video or like the way we sound. Like there's
this is total torture. I'm working with
it's not that anybody, and it's not like I think I'm some great beauty or something, but I've gotten used to editing myself on video at this point. So at least I feel comfortable with the way my face looks. So, some of this might feel uncomfortable because you're not used to looking at yourself, but like there's something in your brain that it's not as bad to other people as it seems to you, if that makes sense. So I don't know, if you can overcome it, I think it's worthwhile. And I think it'll definitely increase your business if you're willing to do it.
We are our own worst critics.
That's what I mean. Like we think that everyone's noticing. I could point out a bunch of different things going on. I'm not going to, that are bothering me in this particular frame, behind me or my face or whatever, but you're not thinking about those. Well, maybe you are now, but
what I think about when a camera's on me is that the camera adds 10 pounds.
Yeah.
And I always feel like I have 4 cameras on me.
Yeah. I know. I feel that way too. I'm like, and I started editing myself and I'm like, I look like a little round dough ball, but like, I don't think that's what other people necessarily think of. Maybe they do, but dough is delicious. So who doesn't want that? Okay. So we have a couple more trends to talk about here, and then we're going to wrap up. So there's this, we've all heard of influencers, like, and kind of maybe have kind of laughed at someone with a ring light before in public doing a crazy dance or something. But I think what both John and I are seeing in our respective parts of the marketing industry is that, people are not necessarily going after, say, a Kim Kardashian anymore, and paying millions of dollars. They're looking around and seeing like, that person down the street who has a fashion blog, she has 5,000 followers or she has 1,000 followers, but like, her engagement is fantastic. Maybe I should work with her about promoting my local restaurant or something like that. So I think that there will be a rise in kind of micro, or I think there's a word now called nano influencers, which is people who have under 1,000 followers, which is me on Instagram, honestly. So I don't know. And John, you work with influencers, right, as part of your business?
Yeah, it's part of our product line to help businesses find the appropriate micro and nano influencers, and we can do it by market and we can do it statewide. And it's been a great program. And last year was when we really we did a pivot and increased our product lines for digital out of home, and the influencer program was one of them. And I started just reading and trying to learn more about it, because if I have to represent it, I need to understand it. Right. And that way I can know what that client benefit is. One of the cases that I saw last year, Ford actually used influencers for social media, okay, for a nationwide campaign. Do you know how many influencers they used, by the way?
1,000?
6.
6.
Six.
And they covered the whole nation?
Covered the whole country.
Wow.
Okay, so obviously Ford is not like Joe's Bait Shop that needs to
Right.
do marketing or whatever, but if you find the appropriate influencers, this helps eliminate a lot of waste and spend, and going back to the word of mouth, now you've got someone that's admired by a select group of people in that right demo for that business saying, this is a good move, this is a good product for you. This is something you want to try. Like a friend of mine is a commercial real estate person. But he loves following TikTok, and he loves finding those weird little products on TikTok. And every once in a while, I'll get a photo mail call, and then he's posting a video of him like trying out this product. And one of them was like a ketchup packet squeezer.
I think I follow him.
Yeah, you know who he is.
Okay.
He's
I
also
think I follow him.
He's a speaker for the SBDC also. So
nice. Okay.
But it's I'll tell you who it is later. But sure. But I do get a kick out of him, and I get a kick out of what he does. Like for his realty company, he sent out calendars, right? Which realtors do, right? Now, what he did though was brilliant. He had a recipe for each month. And then he and his wife will actually do a video cooking the recipe to get people to follow and like him. Now, is any of this have to do with buying a house or looking for real estate for your business? No, but it lets you get to know the guy and see if that's someone that you would want to do business with at some point.
Yeah, a lot of like big purchases or when somebody has to purchase even something unfamiliar, it's important for them to like know that they can trust the person they're getting advice from about that. So I see this rise in micro influencers and businesses increasingly willing to pay for that because of the benefits that they get. So it's kind of a mutually beneficial relationship if you think about it.
And what's surprising is a lot of times you don't realize you're that influencer.
Yeah.
I had a meeting with a company about 6 months ago, and my boss, my director, was on the phone for this meeting. It was an important meeting, and I had some of our staff on that call as well. And my contact brought his boss to the call so we could all just talk about what do you need to do, where are we going to go from there. His boss comes on, and I've got just shy of 3,000 followers on LinkedIn. Okay. So I'm not anything huge by any means, I'm just doing my thing. And his boss comes on, and she goes, "Oh my God, I follow you on LinkedIn. You're John." And I'm like, you never know who you're in. Yeah, I know. I look so cool. Right.
Yeah.
Right? And it really did bring home that you don't know what you're putting out there, really. And you want to be sure that when you're putting something out there, even like on this, because this is streaming, right? Yeah. It doesn't mean that it's going to be temporary.
No.
I'm trying to be cautious of what I'm saying and how I'm presenting because of that. And I'm sure you are as well.
Of course. Yes, absolutely.
Because I don't need 10 years from now, someone calling and say, "I don't like the fact that you mentioned you were on LinkedIn."
Yeah.
Or whatever it might be.
Yeah, definitely. So we're wrapping up the broadcast here. There's just one more kind of trend I want to touch. Well, there's two, kind of one that'll close us out.
Okay.
But, and I don't know if you're kind of seeing this, but there's just been a lot of concerns about privacy and things like that. I mean, Facebook rebranded, I think, just because of that.
They eliminated cookies.
Yeah. And iPhones now are not necessarily like retargeting people as expected, and like Facebook and Instagram were kind of all mad about that. I guess what I see is businesses are now like kind of looking at these more like retro marketing ideas of text message marketing and email marketing. If you have that person's contact information, you can market directly to them. It's the only
and have permission
and have permission. Absolutely. So like I tried to do I didn't quite do all my Christmas shopping small business, but like I did 80% of it. But I was checking out on one website and they gave me like 10% off for my email. So I put that in. And then it popped up and said if I gave them my cell phone, they'd give me another 10% off or something. They wanted both. And I was like, it's so interesting that they're willing to give me 15 or 20% off this purchase to have both of those pieces of information from me. And so I think as businesses, we're going to see people increasingly interested in this again. Oh, email so 20 years ago. Well, you know what? People still use email. People are still texting. And those will, I think, be ways to reach people that people will be more interested in 2022 than they were maybe earlier.
Well, again, it goes back to, are you using the medium properly?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I was in radio, we would constantly get these articles about how radio's dying, radio's going away, radio this, radio that, radio whatever. And you can find them for any medium, whether it's broadcast TV. Oh, the cord cutters are going to be killing, they're killing everything.
Yeah, social media is killing blogging.
Yeah.
Is it though? Yeah.
Is there really an article like that?
Oh, yeah. I've had people tell me, they're like, oh, I have social media now, I don't need to blog. I'm like, okay.
That is your blog.
Well, but like, it's nice. I mean, not everyone is on Facebook,
Well,
everybody can access
the other thing. You can't be everything to everybody,
No,
especially if you're a
can't,
small business. That's why it's important for them to really know who their main audience is.
Absolutely. I just think that your website should be a central place for people to learn something about you. And if you're producing content pretty epically, it's nice if you have some ownership over that. All these platforms are rented. I mean, we're broadcasting on Facebook and YouTube right now, but we're on rented space. It's not, we don't own that space. It could go poof at any time. It could change at any time. So it's important for us to think about, like, where do I put this on my own website, or where do I put this on somewhere I have active control over? I don't know. I think so anyway, but I'm a little suspicious though of tech companies, honestly.
Can't imagine why.
I can't imagine why. But yeah, and our final kind of like trend, and this is a great one to close out. John came up with this and I thought it was brilliant. So obviously, right, we're going to be in the pandemic forever maybe, but 2020 and 2021 were like the year of the pivot, where we all had to kind of like change the way we do business. But that 2022 is going to be the year of testing the pivot. John, do you want to talk a little bit more about like how you're thinking about this? Because I thought this was a really interesting point that you made and a great note to close out on.
Right. I mean, we've all had to make changes in our business. Now we have to see what sticks, to go back and look at those, again, the key performance indicators, the KPIs, to see if the KPIs are being influenced by these changes that have been made to the business. I think you mentioned in our pre-call conversation that the pandemic jumped the internet ahead by 5 years and e-commerce by 5 years, something like, I think you made a comment like that.
Yeah.
So now it's a matter of testing to ensure that these changes are truly beneficial for better business.
Yeah. And I think people were pretty tolerant at the beginning of the pandemic, like, oh, this website works weird, or like the search is terrible, or whatever. I'm going to still try to buy from this small business. But now we're looking at this and saying, okay, it's been 2 years. Like, maybe, we need to kind of optimize this a little bit. We need to make this work better. Because there's patching, and then there's sort of fixing it for long term. And I get that, we all were very tolerant of patching, I think, during 2020 and even like 2021. But like, as we head into now, like a full second year of this, now we're thinking, okay, is this like you said, is this a permanent change, or is this something, we have to test?
And then what's next? Why am I testing this to see what's, I want to see if I'm testing this process. Mm-hmm. continue to keep it through 2023 or 2024? And what are those trends that are going to impact the results of this test? Because it's always a moving forward mechanic when it comes to marketing.
Right. Yeah. And, hopefully John and I have given you some trends to think about. Maybe there's one or two that stand out to you that you're going to try to implement or change in your business. And, feel free to do that. John, do you have any closing thoughts before we end the broadcast here?
Anybody that's owning a business right now is a brave human being. They get all my respect, because if you're an entrepreneur and you're building something for the community, and I've always looked at an entrepreneur and a small business owner, it's their family trust, if you will. If they're building it properly, they can create jobs for their family 2-3 generations away. So if they own a small business right now, they have my total respect. And having said that, if anybody has any questions, I could be reached through the SBDC in Jefferson County.
Yeah. And if you liked this sort of thing, please, leave a comment. We can maybe have John on again to talk if there's something that you're interested in hearing more about with his area of expertise or a particular type of marketing we can talk more about. That would be great. John, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you. I would love to come on again. I think you said I get to be like the wacky neighbor. Is that?
Well, that like recurring character on the sitcom.
Okay.
They're not on every show, but when they come on, we're like, oh, yay, this person's back. I feel like that could be your kind of role. I know we don't have much sitcoms. I'm trying to think. Almost
Gunther
like
from Friends.
Yes. I was trying to think of like of a beloved character like that, but that is an excellent example. So thanks everyone for watching. Want to remind you that the Marketing Monday with the SBDC goes live every Monday at noon. So please share this with a friend you think would benefit, a small business owner that you think would benefit, and tune in next week for more exciting marketing topics. All right, take care, everyone. Have a great day.
Take care.